Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States, and we're going to be taking a look at Holybang's Taro versus Want's Lee Chaeyeon from the first season of Street Woman Fighter. This is their 1v1 battle. So I have not seen this. I have no idea who won. All I can go off of is what I'm about to watch. So I'm going to be also placing my vote on who I think won, and I'm excited for the discussions for this. So let's go ahead and get started.
지금부터 두 댄서의 배틀 시작합니다. DJ ready? Fight!
Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up.
Ooh, wow. Very strong start from Taro.
I'm all the way up. Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. Show it what you want, show it what you need. My run game, we ain't never leave, never leave. Counting up this money, we ain't never sleep. You got V12, I got 12 V's. Got bottles, got them. I'm all the way up. Show it what you want, I got what you need. Shorty, what you want? I got what you need. Shorty, what you want? I got what you need. I'm all the way up. I'm all the way up.
I will say she's very stable and very clear in her choices, which could very much help her in this case. Man, wow. So I do remember I've already seen Lee Chaeyeon probably about 3 times already, possibly already, and I know that every time I've watched her, I don't feel pulled out the win, and I was really rooting for her for this one because like they're the pretty evenly matched to a certain degree here. I think there's a couple exceptions, but we're gonna talk through it. I don't want to kind of give away my answer at the moment. That's what the ending's for, right? So we're gonna kind of walk through this right here. I love the crewmates hyping her up. That's super fun. Yeah. So seeing this very beginning that she does is fabulous. Just her usage of her torso is really nice. Yeah, did you notice the swing of her body? That was fabulous because it really got me into what she was doing because of the fullness of the range, and it matched the drop really well of the song. And just her range and really going for a lot of the choices is super smart, and it's always very captivating too because she's not doing too much, and she's not overcomplicating it or making it too dense either, which is really nice. I will say about right here is where I noticed that, okay, we had a really nice sequence or set that she just did, and then whenever she finishes, she is approaching Lee Chaeyeon. You know, it was just a little moment of a, hey, you know, welcome. You know, it's like a bluff almost. And I've touched on those before. I like that she didn't do it too many times. I think once in a battle like this is totally enough. And placement of when you choose to do it also matters. So I'm glad that she did what she did and then came up and then proceeded to keep going. So something I'm really wanting to note here is that a lot of her sequences are very simple, and I'm not saying that's not a bad thing at all. I'm saying that her choices are very digestible. You will run into a potential problem if you are against somebody who can do what you do but more complex and kind of elevate elevate what you're bringing to the table and doing a one-up. Because with battles, that's what they essentially are, especially if they dance to the same track, is who can do whose style better. Unless it's like, if it's like the same, let me rephrase. If it's the same style, like it's a popper versus a popper, or it's a house dancer versus a house dancer, it's a, okay, we both are bringing something to the table that is very familiar, right? Or it's very similar. So it's a who can, part of it, at least part of the aspect of battle culture, can be a little bit of a, here's what I brought to the table. Okay, watch me do what you just did, but a little bit better. And that's kind of the benefit of going second sometimes, is you get to see, okay, this is what they can bring to the table. I can match that plus some. And it helps frame what you want to give in your set if you have the same song. But here they have two different songs. Sometimes they don't even know what they're dancing to. But I know in this case, she is taking a more simpler route, but I think it worked for her because she was very stable in all of her choices. Her transitions even made sense as well. So I would give her mad props for that. You know, like everywhere had a purpose where it was going, you know? Yeah, and another symptom, because I've mentioned this before, I am more sensitive to be able to tell whenever there's a choreographer who is doing freestyle and they're not super familiar with it, or they don't hone in on it as much as their choreography toolkit. Here's the thing, like I always advocate, and I'm very proud whenever choreographers step out of their comfort zone and join a cypher, or they are a part of freestyle battles, because it is a different wheelhouse and it can be very intimidating, and it can leave you pretty vulnerable because it's a different skill set that is required to execute in a battle differently than choreography, and that's also different than a cypher, right? In developing your craft within a style. So I kudos to her for actually not going too ham, and also not taking too many risks, but staying in her safe zone. Part of it could be, I don't know at what point Chaeyeon, how many battles she has done up until this point. I do not know if this is her first battle. I'm not 100% sure. But all that to say, if she had a familiar sense of what she was up against, she could have taken this approach as a strategic way of helping. Because also note too, you know, this transition going to the floor was pretty good. Even that, so like I'm saying, like she's making, and some of these moves are pretty difficult to do, you know, but a lot of times she's staying in a groove, or she's staying in a position, and she's trying different things with it, which is a pretty good approach whenever you are ciphering or exploring movement, right? And it helps her fill up a lot of time, but not in a way that it feels like, oh, we're waiting for time to run out. So I think it's very strategic for her. And she's making just enough variations. I will also say, I think this is the first time I'm watching her. So if I don't know if I end up seeing her again in another battle, I'm not sure. But I feel like part of this is I haven't really seen her possibly, so I don't really have any fingerprints that could work against her that I may have already been exposed to for what she's brought to the table, which could influence what a judge thinks. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I've already mentioned before as well that the longer your stamina and creativity in battling is another skill set that is really difficult to mature, because it takes a lot of exposing yourself to the adrenaline of battles in that type of performance and performing. So I have no idea how she dances in round 2 or round 3. I do know how Chaeyeon dances in round 2 and round 3, and we'll talk about it in a second, but I do feel like, you know, she made some pretty smart choices, especially against who she was against. You know, and I also feel like at this very end, she did what she wanted to do, and then she's just kind of vibing out for the rest of it, you know? And now it is up to Chaeyeon. So I wanted you to notice something too. Forgive my apple juice, because I don't know. It's late night, and I like apple juice. We just noticed with Chaeyeon, she actually sets up very similarly to how I've seen her in all of her other battles that I've watched, where she takes a second, hands on hips, and she listens to the song, which I think is really, really smart. I noticed with Wolflow, a lot of times they tap their ears so they can actually listen. They go here. I don't know. I don't know if it's a habit or if it's just something that they do as a routine, which can help you. Research shows that having a routine in something, and depending on the context, can be very beneficial for you for getting in the zone. So, but I am very familiar that Chaeyeon is, I believe, a K-pop. She was a K-pop idol, right? So how she sets up is very good. She's trying to attack the music very well. But notice I have already seen that hit ball change movement, and I believe she does it twice. So I think that one of her things that I've always been rooting for her on is the ability to be able to hold out longer before she starts repeating grooves, because that's something that I really empathize with. I do, and I was really rooting for her to pull out a win, at least one of these that I see. I also noticed that she does with her legs whenever she has them in like a second position where they're spread out, and then she has that kind of groove. If she approached it with a rock or something with some isolations or something like that, I feel like that could have really helped her vary those up. But it is really difficult to do that when you're not in exploring freestyle nearly as much, or you're in an environment where it's safe to grow in that. So you notice that she did it again. This is her second time in about 20 seconds doing that kickball change, not kickball change, but like that sit ball change in the hip, and pretty much most of her grooves that she's doing, she's hitting twice, versus whenever we've seen other instances, especially the whackers of this season, are able to notice that they are able to play on the different layers a lot easier, and it feels like second nature, where it looks easy, right? But here she is chilling on the ands and the whole count equivalences of the music versus the 16ths and the 8ths. She's not really adventuring in the more complex rhythms that she could be approaching with. And I like that she's trying to wordplay there too, which could have helped her here. But then also no, she did hit that hip to rolling up, and then she's proceeding, to kind of roll that groove like she did in the very beginning. That was a really nice choice down in the melt up. So that was a really nice choice from her. How she finishes, it does kind of look like she's playing off of what Taro just did. So that was really fun. I liked that. Yeah, so she finished. I love the finish for her. So yeah, I mean, this was a battle for sure. I feel like there's not one person who really took it in comparison to the other person. But I would say if I were to pick out of the two, I would say Taro. And my reasoning is because whenever even though I felt like both did end up repeating some of their grooves, I felt like Chaeyeon repeated too many of her grooves too frequently in the same direction. So it was difficult to find as many variations of her grooves and her movements like I was able to find in Taro, hence why I gave Taro the win for myself. So, but remember, I wasn't a judge. I know the judges, I have no idea how they voted on a lot of these, and I heard some interesting things from you guys about this season with the judges, so I'm just gonna leave it to, that's just my opinion. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful in some way. I love watching battles, regardless if they're like the most recommended or just the ones that we forgot existed, right? So I don't know, in this case, all the battles that I've been reacting to, I have no idea which ones are the ones that people are like, oh, you have to watch this one. I think there's only a couple that I've really gotten that from, but there's about 30, like 25 to 30 battles from this season, and I'm trying to get through. I'm trying to get through all of them, so I can really have the biggest, fullest view of the season as I can. And so these have been really fun. So thank you for watching, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye.